Hey guys, welcome back. This is Cool Tutorial here, and I am back here with an amazing and cool tutorial. We're going to be learning to make something awesome here in Cinema 4D, and we'll be using After Effects as well. So let me just show you what cool thing we're going to be creating before we get started. So that was the cool visual effect or animation or whatever you can call that. Definitely there's no modeling or logo animation there. It uses a little bit of simple techniques. We'll be using some dynamics, an attractor effect and all that stuff. And we'll be compositing everything in After Effects. So let me just show you the original creation where I found that. So I was on Vimeo and I was just checking it out for some cool stuff. And I came across this animation called Hugs, which is a Grayscale Gorilla 5-second project submission. So let me just show you what this is, and let's continue. So yeah, let's watch it again. Oh, oops. Yeah. So that was the animation. So this guy, whoever he is, this Michael Fernandez, he uploaded a breakdown of the video as well. So let me just show you the breakdown. Yeah, so basically it's I'm not gonna watch the whole video. I'm gonna put in the links in the description for you guys to check it out. And so basically what we do is take, for those who know a little bit of basics, so we take a raw footage and then we build in the room for the dynamics to follow, and then we put on the cloners, and then we allow the dynamics to interact. Then we render the sequence, and we're going to render out the passes, and then we're going to composite them in After Effects. All that stuff. But those of you guys who did not understand anything I just said, no problem, because I'm going to be doing everything from scratch. So let's jump into cinema and let's get started. But before we do that, I just want to show you the footage you would have to download for something. You have to shoot for something like this, and it's going to be some. So oops, stop it. Pause it. Okay, so as you can see here, we need a few things. So we need the complete animation, which is not shaking. So we want to put the camera on a tripod or a table or a chair or something like that, so that it's stable. And we also need a background image, so a blank plate with nothing in it. So here we can see the object is there, and here we see that it's a complete blank plate. So we're going to be needing all these three things in order to create this effect. So you got to shoot the video accordingly. So once we do that, we're going to jump into After Effects, and then we're going to import the stuff. So let me just import it. So we're just going to go and let's see. Okay, so once we have it imported, we're just going to drop this into a new composition, and we want to go to the last frame where we have a freeze frame, and then we want to go to composition. We want to choose save frame as, and we want to choose file. And then we get this options of where we're saving it, and we want to go into Photoshop, click the output module, and then we want to choose whichever one you want, but I prefer choosing a JPEG or a PNG sequence. So we want to do that, PNG sequence or a JPEG, and we want to click OK, and we want to render out the frame. We want to do the same thing where the ball actually collides with the object. So let's say let's go a little bit front. I'm pressing the page down key to move up in the frame, for those of you who don't know that. So our frame, this frame, we want to we want to take a frame of this, and we want to take a frame of the blank plate. So once we have that, we can start working in cinema. So let me just open my project file. So this is my scene file, which looks extremely complicated, and you have no clue what the hell is going on, and I'm going to break this down one by one for you guys to follow. So let me just hide everything that we have over here. So hold on a second, let me just pause the video. Okay, so here we are in like a completely new scene, and there is nothing going around. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to go and create a background object. I'm not going to be making this as a step-by-step tutorial, but more of a breakdown, because it's really complicated to recreate all these stuff. But I'm going to be going as detailed as I can. So we want to go here and we want to choose a background object. And once we have our background, we want to go and grab a new material. So in the new material, we want to open the luminance channel, and we want to apply the frame. So which frame we want to apply is the one which has the object. So let me just go and do that. So as you can see here, I have the frame where the Rubik's Cube and the object is. So I'm just going to go right click and I'm just going to go change this to plane, so you guys can see what it is. And I'm really sorry that stupid thing keeps popping up. Please ignore that. Okay, so once we have this, we want to go and drop this on our background. And let me just go and turn off this traffic light. Okay, so once we have that, we have something like this, and we hit Control R, we see we have something that looks like this. Okay, if you think the resolution is too low, what you can do is you can go into the material over here, and in the editor options you can change the texture preview size as the highest or whatever you want, and click OK. Okay, so once that is done, we want to orient our grid in such a way that it sits on the floor. So if I go here and move my my viewports over here, so if I just go and bring this down and move it up and scale up and down and do all sorts of things, we can actually what we can do is, you can see this line grid over here, so we can take this as a base point. Or if you want the axis to be where the object is, you can go and you can move that, and you can arrange it properly. But it does not happen in all the cases. You guys have to set the grid accordingly. And once that is done, the first thing we want to do is we want to go and create a camera and place it. So this is where I had placed my camera. So if you guys can check out the settings if you want, the coordinates, and this is a focal length of 36. Okay, so once that is done, we want to go start and remodeling the room. So here I have 4 cubes, so which is going to be one cube is going to be over here, one cube is going to be the door, the other cube is going to be this pillar, and the other cube is going to be this. So let me just start putting all these just apart. So as you can see here, in the basic tabs, I have enabled X-ray, so I can see through the object. So once you enable X-ray, you can see it, and you want to kind of appropriately place it. So here you can see there's a little bit of mismatch, so we want to just go and drag this a little bit back and a little bit to the side. That looks good. We can take this cube, and this cube also looks a little bit too far away, so we want to take that and we want to drag that back, because we want it to actually sit properly. And then we want to take this cube and we want to move it to the side. Let's increase this a little bit, and we want to move this back. Okay, and we want to take this cube which is over here, and we want to move this back as well, and then we want to move it to the side. Okay, so once we're done with that, we want to just go away and we want to go into our perspective view, and we actually want to see if it actually does look like a room. So here you can see that they are actually intersecting, and it kind of does look like a room. So let me just, what's happening? Why is this thing moving? Let's close this, and okay, something's wrong. Okay. Yeah. So you can see here there's this little bit of gap, so we just want to make sure that we kind of, excuse me, you want to cover that gap so that the pieces don't go flowing all around. Okay. So let's get back to our camera view. So once we have this nice room set up, we can go and put it on a floor. So let me just unhide all this. And then we want to go and grab a plane. Let's actually grab a plane on the floor. So we want to grab a plane. So let me delete this tags for now. And you want to grab a plane. Now this plane, we want to put it into X-ray mode so we can see it. And we obviously want to make sure that the plane is at a 0 axis. Sorry, is at minus, okay, not 0. So we want to bring it down kind of approximately where it kind of sits. So for me, this was the kind of a proper place for it to sit down actually. And now we want to actually apply a texture to this. So now if I go and take this material and drop it on the plane, we see that we have something that looks like this. So if I just hide all the cubes and we have only the floor, and let me remove the background as well, we see that we have this bad structure. This is not the proper mapping. And if I go and change the projection from UVW mapping to flat or frontal, we see we get this, right? And if I put back my background, we see we have this. Okay, now usually frontal does work sometimes, a frontal does not work sometimes. So if it does not work for you, what you can do is we can go to the plane, we can go to right click and choose Cinema 4D tags, and we want to choose a compositing tag. Now this is in case it does not work. So once we choose a compositing tag, we want to click here saying compositing background. So my suggestion is, even though it works, I sincerely request you guys to check out this compositing background, because it might give you a few issues later on if you do not do that. Okay, so once we are done with that, we want to go and add in a few tags. So here on the cube, we want to apply a collider body. So we want to go right click and choose let's see, simulation tags and collider body. We want to apply that to all the cubes and at the plane as well, because these are what is going to be colliding with the clones and the spheres that we make. So let's see where we are. We created the background, we created 4 cubes, which is going to be the walls. Let's bring down the plane, because that's also going to be a collider. And then we have a camera, and then now we have a cloner. Okay, so just a second. We want to go to dynamics and cache, clear cache. Okay, please don't bother about that. I will explain what I just did later on. Okay, so then we want to go and let's make our camera visible, and we don't make our cubes visible. And then we want to go into the cloner over here, and let me just show you what we have. So let me just get away from the camera so we can have a cube. So here is the model of the cube that I just made. So each cube has a size of 4 and a fillet radius of 0.3 with a subgenre of 3, and it actually will again depend on what kind of object we have, how big the object is, how many clones you want. So let me just uncheck the cloner. So here is what I have, a single cube. Let me just turn off X-ray for that. So here is a single cube, and with the single cube I created many cubes of the same thing, and I just added a different material to this cube. So let me just go and show you the material. So if you go here, we have a color channel with a brightness set to 95. You can set that to 100 if you want, and just a reflection of 5 with a Fresnel. I don't know why there's a filter, but it's not needed actually. We can just add a filter by going to texture and choose a Fresnel, and we can set the mix strength to 30. And we just want to make different colors, and then we just want to drop each cube on each color. And then we want to go and grab a cloner object. So we go to MoGraph and we choose cloner, and we're going to drag all these cubes inside the cloner, and then we're going to take it. And let's move out. Now, why actually I created many cubes is because if I take all these cubes and delete it, we can see that we have all the cubes having the same color. And if I take another material tag and put it on that, we can just see the new material. But the way to fix that is by making different copies of the cubes and putting on different colors on each. So that's what gets it. Now in the cloner, we go to object and we want to choose the mode to grid array, and I set the count to 10, and I just increase the size a little bit so to get a little bit of spacing over here. And we want to go and change the clones to iterate, random, or whatever suits you. I just kept it to iterate. Okay. And once that is done, okay, that is pretty much it for the cloner. Let's get back to our camera view. And you want to go and move the cloner into the position of the object. Now you want to make sure that when you go into your, let's see, our different views over here. Let's go to our front view. So here when we go to our front view, you need to make sure that the cube is on top of the floor. So this is the floor, right? The plane. You need to make sure that it is on that, because when you're positioning it, you tend to move it down and down, okay, and it kind of goes below the floor. So you want to make sure, double cross check that on all the sides, on all the perspective views, to check that it looks perfectly correct. Okay, and if you think that you want to push it down, you need to make sure that you want to reduce the size of these clones, which will make sure that it will fit appropriately. Let me just go back to our perspective view. So once we have that, I just went and chose a MoGraph effector and a random effector. When you're choosing these effectors, you need to make sure that the cloner is selected. So let me just check on this random effector. So as you can see here, we have changed in the randomness. So here in the parameter, we see that I just give it a little bit of basic settings of 446. You guys can put whatever you want. Okay. Once that is done, we want to go and add a rigid body tag over here to the cloner. So now in the rigid body tag, we want to go and in the collision, we want to choose inherent tag, apply tag to children, and individual elements all. So what it does is the cloner, this tag applies all the information of the dynamics to all these children. It says apply tag to children, or else if not, if I go, let me just show you, if I go and choose none, and then let's see, let's play this thing. Okay, it is applying. I have no clue why, but if it does not, you need to make sure that it is apply tag to children. So okay, let me do one thing. Let me just go delete this tag. Let's go to cloner, and we're going to choose a simulation tag and choose a rigid body. And now let's play that. Okay, yeah. So I was right. So you can see that this whole thing is set to one. Is like a single object. You don't see any shattering or explosion or movement and all that stuff, right? So then if you go and choose inherent tag, apply tag to children, and then we move, we cannot still see anything. That is because we will choose the individual elements. We want to select what these individual elements are, and then we will choose all. And then when you play, we can see it shatters into pieces. Perfect. That looks fantastic, doesn't it? Okay. So now we are done with the cloner. So now let's go and create the ball clones. So let's go and grab a new sphere. So I just create a new sphere and I just placed it approximately in the correct position as the ball, which you can see, and obviously reduced down the size as much as I wanted, and made sure that it is above the floor. You need to make sure that it is above the floor, or else the whole point does not make sense. So once that is done, we want to double click the traffic lights over here to hide the sphere, not the cloner. We want to hide the sphere, and then you want to go and grab a new cloner. So in the new cloner, I just put one cube with the same settings as these cubes. Sorry, these cubes, the cloner cubes. Okay, and then I went to cloner, and then I went into the cloner. Let me just unhide that. And here in the object, I chose mode. So let me just take that. So I chose object, okay, and we want to actually choose what this object is. So what the cloner does here is it takes an object and puts all the clones on that. So then I took this cube, this sphere, and then dropped it inside this object panel over here. And you want to make sure to set the distribution to volume. If you set it to edge, it will it'll look different. If you set it to surface, it'll look different. If you set it to polygon center, it will look different. So but for me, the best one was volume. So it kind of puts all the clones inside each other. Because if you change the distribution over here to vertex, it just puts each clone on on the vertex of all the polygons that we have. If you put it to edge, it just aligns it along the edge, and we don't see any volume inside it. So I think let me just go show you what I'm actually talking about. So let me just get away from the camera, and this is what we have. So if I set the distribution to vertex, we see that the cloner is cloning only on the vertex, and there's literally nothing inside actually. And if I go and change this to edge, we can see it is only on the edge. There's nothing actually inside. You can see there's a lot of holes over here. And if you go to polygonal center, again the same thing. So the best thing, if you choose volume, you can see it kind of occupies the whole thing, you know, like everything that's inside out, and it's like a whole volume if you're trying to understand what I'm saying. Anyways, and I set the count to 500. So let me just get back to my camera view, and then we place it like that. So now what we want to do is apply the same dynamics tab over here, copy paste it and place it onto this cube so we can see the cloner affecting. So now let me just play and see what we get. So we just like the cubes just fall and there is literally no impact. Literally no impact. A ball just comes, hits the cube, and what a slight fall. So we need to give some kind of explosion effect. So to give that explosion effect, we use the attractor. So you're probably thinking, dude, we want to explode it, but you're saying attractor, what the hell is going on? Let me just explain. So to get the attractor first, we want to go into simulate and particles, and we want to choose an attractor. Once we have an attractor, I'm just going to take it on, and the strength is usually set to +10. But since we want to explode, we want to give it a negative value. So I set the strength to -250, and you have to experiment based on what your objects, what power it wants to explode. So let me just click play, and now you can see this huge blast. But probably for you that is not the case. So let me just go into the attractor and show you what the settings I've changed. So I wanted the fall off. Let me just put this on. And I set the shape to sphere. So what the attractor does, it blasts from the area within the fall off. So these are the settings which I used. So you guys can have to change your setting accordingly. Now I'm thinking it probably not working for me. Why is it not working for me? Because we have one small thing to do. We want to go into the dynamics over here. And then here under we want to go to let's see, force. Okay, not the force, one second, hold on. Okay, so here in the cloner over here under the dynamics tab, you want to go to force mode and choose include, and then you want to put in this attractor. You want to do the same thing over here and drop this attractor. You want to make sure it is include, and then it probably would work for you. Okay, so now we have this crazy explosion. Looks fantastic, doesn't it? And now you can see that these objects are actually hitting the wall. They are actually hitting the wall. You get that, right? They're actually hitting the wall because there's a collider tag and there's a dynamic tag applied. Okay, so moving on. Now we can see that we have set up the colliders. We have done the animation over here, and we need to go further with this. Now as you can see here, we can see that when I preview it, it takes quite some time to load. So in order to prevent that, and we want to see it in real time, so to do that, what you want to do is you want to press Ctrl D, which will get us this project settings, and we want to go into dynamics, and under the export and under the cache tab, we want to choose bake. So now as you can see here, it is baking the animation. So what baking actually does is it takes the whole timeline and it bakes all the animations that are present within the timeline to give us a realistic real-time animation. So let's just finish up with this and let's see how it happens. So now if you see here, you see there's no lag. It's real-time animation. What happens in real time? You get my point? What happens in real time? Let's play that again. So real point, there's no lagging. Okay, and the preview is much faster. Okay, cool. So we're done with that. Now let's see. I'm just gonna pull this cloner in the background. Okay, random effector. Okay, so let's see. Let's go back. Okay, we apply the random effector. We apply the attractor. Now let's just light up the scene and go into the render settings. So now there are two things I did. Now to get the reflections, I used the HDRI Studio Rig by Grayscale Gorilla, and to get the shadows, I use the Illuminati. Now Illuminati is a plugin by MyMotionGraphics. I'll leave a link in the description for you to download, for you to get it. It's a free plugin. by MyMotionGraphics. I will leave a link in the description for his channel as well. You can check out his cool tutorials as well. So now the reason I'm using Illuminati is because I will be able to cast shadows, and HDRI Studio Rig will not be able to cast shadows because we will be needing a shadow pass which we will composite into After Effects. Okay, so I just if you do not have the HDRI Studio Rig, the only thing you can do is you can go and grab a new sky object, and then you can go in, create a new metal. You can go into the luminance channel and choose any HDRI, and you can drop it on, and you can drag it and drop it on the sky. As simple as that. Now, if you do have the HDRI Studio Rig, you can choose the abundant number of presets that Grayscale Gorilla gives you with. And for this one, I used the Bell Reflections, and you can use whatever you want, any choice of yours. And here in the Illuminati settings, what I did is I just create a shadow map of 250 by 250, and these are, I think, the general settings. I added a texture of the HDRI in just in case, but I don't know if it's required. Okay, and I made sure that the radius is 1350. If you want to know how to use the Illuminati in depth more, you guys can obviously check out his tutorial. I will leave a link in the description for that as well. Okay, so now how to render this thing. So what are the render settings? What all do I have to check? What do I have to uncheck? Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to uncheck the background. The second thing is we want to switch off the traffic light for all the cubes. We want to keep the plane on. We want the cloner on as well. We want this cloner on as well. So let me just name this to yellow, and I'm going to name this cloner to color. Okay. Okay, and we just want to check on the HDRI Studio Rig, and we want to check the Illuminati, and we want them both to be visible in the render region and as well as the viewport. So the viewport is the up traffic light, and the renderer is the bottom traffic light. So we can hide the attractors. We need to make sure that it is ticked because it must be active, and we don't need to keep this in render, or even if you uncheck it or put it green, it doesn't matter. So we need to make sure that yellow, here the color is both the traffic lights are open. Let me just bring this down. You need to make sure that this sphere on which the cloner is connected to is taking all the data from is not visible, because we don't want that. We want only the clones. And let's uncheck the camera as well, and we want the plane. Okay, so this is pretty much basically how it looks. Now we want to go into our render settings, and this is the render settings we're going to have. So I'm going to check on global illumination with samples set to low, because this is a pretty small cube and we don't need that much of detail. And then you're going to go to the irradiance cache and set that to low, completely low settings. If you have a stronger processor, stronger graphic card, you can obviously go for a higher resolution. Ambient occlusion, we want to set that. And I'm choosing the physical render this time because it renders faster than the standard renderer. And then we want to go into the save, and we want to set it to a PNG format with a depth of 16, and we want to check alpha channel. We want to uncheck straight alpha, make sure that straight alpha is not checked. And we want to multipass, so we want to click save and PNG 16 bits per channel and save that as well. Now in the multipass, we will be needing this post effects. Now what is post effects? So let's go and check out our post effects. There's supposed to be a help over here. Anyway, let me just get into Chrome and show you what post. Okay, I actually don't know why post effects is on. I checked it on Chrome just a second back, but I could not understand or not find it. But there must be a a option that shows help over here for what post effects is. Add material, blah, blah. Okay, anyways, we don't need post effects. So we need reflection, ambient occlusion, shadow, and specular. So once we have all this, we want to go and we want to set all frames, and we want to render it out. So let me just show you one frame as how it will look. So let me just go to a frame where there is explosion, so somewhere over there, and then we want to go and go okay, let's just render it over here in the viewport. So now you can see there's something like that. Okay, so it obviously takes a lot more render time because of ambient occlusion. Now you can see there's a lot of shadowing ambient occlusion, giving it the effect of realism. And in case you guys want more shadowing, you guys can go to the Illuminati and change the density to 500 by 500 or 1000 by 1000. But I felt this was pretty good for my scene. Okay. So anyways, we're going to composite in After Effects, and let's get this thing going further ahead in After Effects. So render this out and let me see you in After Effects. Okay, so here we are in After Effects, and a lot of complicated stuff, and so let me just break down everything for you guys, and we can go ahead. So we want to go here first into this render over here, which says render, and we want to hide everything. So the first thing we want to do is we want to add the render. Okay, so 139 frames was what I rendered. So if you can see, you have a plain basic animation of that. Okay, nothing much too detailed. Let me just go in, zoom in a little bit over here, so you guys can have a better look. And then we want to go to the reflection channel, and we're going to check it on. Now, if you see, you can see there's a change here in the reflection. Now, if I press T on the keyboard, I can see that I've set the opacity to 70. But if I bump this to 100, you can see there's a lot of reflection. Depending on the scene, you would want to change your reflection settings. So I've set the opacity over here to 70, and make sure that the blending mode is set to add. Okay, the next thing is we want to apply ambient occlusion. Now, we want to set the ambient occlusion to multiply. And here on the opacity, I've set it to 30. Now let me just check that, and now you can see shadowing, kind of a realistic shadow feel. Okay, so here you can see if I check and check on, you can see here that when it hits the ground, there's some shadowing, which is perfect, which gives it a amount of realism. Now if I press T and I set the opacity to 100, you can see that it's completely dark and black and whatnot. It looks pretty ugly. So I just set the opacity to 30. Okay, so that is that. Now you're probably thinking, where the hell is the shadow? Now what actually happened with my original render is I made a mistake when I was rendering the shadow path. So let me just show you how it is with the shadow path. So let me just take the shadow path and drop that down, and boom, this is what we get. So I'm going to set this to multiply. Sorry, not darken. I'm going to set this to multiply or add. Whoa, multiply, come on. Okay, so this is what we get, multiply, and it is very hard and harsh. So what actually happened was I removed the, one second, hold on. Okay, shadow path seems to be working. I don't know why I didn't put that. Let's put this to 800. Okay, anyways, I'm just gonna go and take the shadow path, and I'm gonna apply a fast blur to it. Okay, this is all loading, so I'm just going to take fast blur, and I'm going to drop it on the shadow pass, and I'm going to set this to say something like 5. Okay, and then let me just zoom in. Excuse me. Let's set this to say something like 100%. Okay, and I'm going to press T on the keyboard, and I'm going to set the opacity to say 20%. Okay. So now without the shadow and with the shadow, looks more realistic, gives it a hell lot of realism. Okay, I think I found out what the problem was. Okay, so around here, seems to be working. Okay, so here and here, there was a mistake when I was doing the render, but anyways, that shouldn't be a problem. So for you guys, I think I'm going to set this blurriness to say 3. And you can see the shadow over here, or okay, and let me just remove the fast blur. Okay, so we have something like that, and if I move back, we see that the shadow is all gone, because that was the mistake I had made. So we want to just set the blurriness to 3, and we want to set the opacity to say something like 20-30, and that gives a little bit of nice shadowing. And then let's put it up to 100, and boom, this is what we have. I think the shadow is too much, so let me just set that to say around 10%. Okay, so once we finish this render passing, we want to go and take it and drop it into a new composition, and this is the new composition that I have. Okay, now when you put the render over here, it is usually like this. Let me just unhide all this. Okay, so this is how it would probably look, and there is a mask. So let me just set the mask to none. Okay, we want to go and check this button over here, which says collapse transformation, and that will take all the data from all the passes, everything from here, and it will apply everything over here. In case that does not work, in case it works well enough, in case it does not work, just click on this button to apply the transformation, all the things that would be what that has been done in this render settings. Okay, so once that is done, we want to go to our first frame. So on our first frame there's nothing, so I just put in a freeze frame. So this freeze frame was the blank frame. So how do you get a blank frame? So to get a blank frame, you want to take our original footage that is over here. Okay, let's just check this, and okay, why is it not showing? Oh, let's press T. Okay, we have the opacity. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to go to your blank frame, and then you want to go right click and choose time, and you want to choose this freeze frame. Okay, you want to sorry, this one, the freeze frame. I don't know why it's showing, but it should probably show for you. So so if I just take this footage again and import it, and then I'm going to go right click and choose time. See, you get the option to freeze frame. So now it freezes the frame. So wherever you go, it freezes the frame. So you would actually have to go to the end of the composition. So to say something like, let me just drag this to say something like here, and then you want to go right click and choose time, and then you want to choose freeze frame. And now when we move in, it's the same. That's what we want to do. Okay. So once you take that, you want to drop this freeze over here, and you want to place it down. Now, why do we need the freeze frame? So what actually happens is when this is the real footage, let me just call this footage. So when this is playing, and we come here to say around 21 frames for me, I'm going to reduce the opacity of this from 100, and 2 frames further, I'm going to set it to 0. So now, if we did not have the freeze frame, it's going to be like this. But since we have the freeze frame, from here on, it's going to be completely blank. And the render is what is going to take over. So here on frame 21, I have set the opacity to 100. 2 frames further, the opacity is 0, and the freeze frame takes over. Next, we want to put in the render composition, and we want to check that. Now, when we do that, we have this weird bad color correction or whatever that mistake is, the glitch kind of a thing. So we're going to fix that in a minute. So what you want to do is on frame, the frame where the opacity is set to 100, we want to go create a mask. So let me just zoom in. So this to like 100, and okay, and we want to set a mask. Now I've set the mask feather to 0. Sorry, it was 0. I'm going to set it to 50. Let's go here and set this to 50. And this mask, and what creates this animation is the mask expansion. So if I set this mask expansion to 0, come on, let me set this to 3rd for now. What's wrong? Why isn't it showing? Oops, what's going on? I checked inward. Okay, and I'm gonna set this to 0. What is going on? Why can't I see the render? There it is. Okay, I think here if I press T, okay, so that was the thing. I had to keyframe the opacity. So let's just go to 100. And let's bring this to the center, and I'm just gonna hide that. Okay. So if I set this opacity to 100, we see we have this animation. I'm just gonna set this to a half for you guys to see. And okay. Okay. So on the frame where the collision happens, we want to set the opacity to 0 because we have nothing over there. And 2 frames further, we want to set the opacity to 100. Now, how do we get in the fade in effect? Pretty simple. We just did it with the opacity. Now, we want to do it with the mask expansion as well, because we want it to come from inside to the outside, because we just don't want it to pop from nowhere. So I set the mask expansion over here to -40 last time. So mask expansion, if I just set this to 100, and let me just show you. So if I set this to 0, and I start reduce down the mask expansion, oh, we want to set this to add. My bad. Okay, we want to set the mask path to add. So -40. And now if I slowly start increasing this, you can actually see it start coming on the screen. So at first we want it set to be 0, and then we want to go 2 frames further, and we want to set it to 100. So it has completely covered this much area. Now you can set it to how much ever you want based on your project. And then I just went and keyframed the mask expansion. So on frame here, I went and gave it a mask expansion of 400, so to cover this whole area. So you can see here. And then I went a little bit more further, and then I made the mask expansion, and which is why we are getting this weird coloring. But that's no problem. We're gonna fix it. So after we keyframe the reveal of the logo, we just want to go and add this liquefy effect. So we just type in liquefy, and we get distort. Now we have this distortion percentage over here. So what it does is, let me just grab a new composition and then just show you, explain it to you what it does. So here, so if I zoom in over here, and I'm going to set this to a full resolution, and I'm going to add in the liquefy effect. And if I take in this tool, and we get this brush, just like in a Photoshop, and if I just click, you can see that it's giving this like a warp feel. You know, like I just click here and it gives this warp. And now if I change the distortion percentage, you can see it actually changes the distortion. And I can set it to as much as I want. So it gives it a feeling of a warp effect. So here, back here, if I press U on the keyboard, you can see the keyframes, all the keyframes. And on frame 0, I set the distortion amount to 100. Sorry, on the frame where we have the reveal. And on 2 frames further, I set it to 0. Done. Now, if we go further, we have this problem. So to fix the problem, what I just did is I took a freeze frame from here, and I just put it over here. Now, so it would basically look like this. Correct. But where is all the thing? Where is all the thing? It's missing. That's because the frame is covering the full footage. So we want to mask it out. So I just took the pen tool by clicking here, and I just drew clicked here, clicked here, clicked here, clicked here, and created a mask, and it will automatically come like this. So now we have it looks like that. So if I just solo this, we have this one, and if I solo this, this is what we have. With both these two put together, this is what we have. Pretty simple. Okay, next. Let me just go here in order to explain the next part of the animation. Okay. Now the next layer is motion blur. So to give it a effect of realism, you need to have motion blur. So I used Real Smart Motion Blur, and if I just take that, you can see we have this nice motion blur. Let me just zoom into a 100%, and ta-da, we have this motion blur. Let me just uncheck that and close and open and close. Okay, so we have this nice motion blur. And then the last but not the least, to finish off, color correction. So let me over here, and as you can see here, I have used Magic Bullet Looks and I gave it an exposure. So let me just go into the Magic Bullet Looks and show you. Magic Bullet Looks. Okay, here we are in Magic Bullet Looks. So this is pretty complex Magic Bullet Looks. Basically there are a lot of presets that you can defaultly use in Magic Bullet Looks. I mean, it's crazy. Or else you can use just a simple curves effect and finish off the thing. But if you guys want to know how I got this exact coloring, I will put a link in the description where I followed another YouTuber on YouTube who made a tutorial for that, and you guys can check it out. Once you want to do all the editing, you can just click on finished, and boom, you have this over here. Let me just close this. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this tutorial, guys. I know it's a pretty new tutorial and a pretty long tutorial. Any comments, please put a link in the description, or any changes that you require, anything that was good, anything that was bad, anything would help. And I'm going to be making a few cool tutorials that is going to be coming up soon. And thank you again very much for watching, and I hope to see you in other future tutorials. Till then, take care and bye-bye.